Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Hope you're safe, hope you're happy, hope you're staying busy, hope things are going well for you. If they're not, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Let me know what I can do, how I can help you guys. That's what I'm here for. So today, a really quick, easy video on how to diagnose some of the problems, the starting and charging system in your vehicle, more specifically, the charging system. As we start rolling into springtime, we get a lot of fluctuating temperatures. Like for instance, right now it's 33 degrees. A couple of days ago, it was 70 degrees. So as we start to see those big fluctuations in temperature, it's pretty difficult for the electrical system on your vehicles to kind of compensate for that at times. So it can be pretty stressful on it. So the charging system of your vehicle includes the battery and the alternator, which is essentially the charger for that battery on your car. And I'm going to show you how to diagnose the difference between a bad battery and a bad alternator today. Usually auto parts stores like O'Reilly's and Advance can do this sort of stuff for you guys for free. However, lately I'm not exactly sure what their policies are and how this pandemic has changed some of their policies and that sort of stuff. So I thought I'd make a video just to kind of show how to do this, how to diagnose some of these things with some really cheap and easy to use tools. If you do find out that either your battery or your alternator is bad, I know Ken's Auto and Tom's Auto right here in McFarland do amazing work. Certainly a couple of shops to check out on that. I know they're always busy, which is a great sign because a busy shop is a sign of a shop that does great quality work. So today I'm just going to show you a really quick, easy way to take a look at the alternator and battery using this guy, a digital multimeter. It's a really, really cheap tool. Some of these can get very expensive for what we're going to use today. Certainly does not have to be expensive at all. I think I paid like $5 or $7 for this, and it does everything I need to do just fine. Aside from that, all you need is a place to test the car out and some information on it. All right, we're gonna start on the Jetta first. The Jetta has what's called a top post battery, meaning the terminals or the connectors are on the very top side of the battery, a very common one. What we're going to do is take our multimeter, make sure that our black connector is set up to the common area, COM or common, and then the red connector is set up to the ohms and the DC readout, which on this specific one is right in the middle here. We've got it set to 20 volts DC, and all we will do is simply touch the terminal ends across the battery, red to positive, black to negative, and we should get a readout of about 12.5 to 12.6 volts. This is a 12 volt battery, but every automotive battery should be between 12.4 and 12.6 volts as it sits static. Now let's go check the one on the dune buggy. All right, time to check the battery here in the dune buggy. As you can see, the terminals on this one are on the side, making it what's called a side post battery. Okay, so we'll do the same procedure. We'll take our digital multimeter and we will jump the terminals with the jumper leads, and we should get a readout from here. I'll put this to a spot where you guys can see it. Hopefully. That won't work. That should. As we jumper these across, we get a readout here of about 12 volts, which is a little bit alarming. It should be in that 12.5 volt range. So that tells us that something's amiss here. The easiest way to go about it would just simply say, well, the battery's bad and I should just replace the battery. Unfortunately, that would be a waste of money for you here because it's not actually the battery itself that's bad. It's the charging system that's not bringing it up to speed. And I'll show you how to check that next, and that entails starting these vehicles. Now, when we check the alternator on a vehicle, we always want to have the vehicle running. What the alternator does is it takes the rotational force from the engine while it's running and transfers some of that energy into electrical energy. That way, when the engine's running, the alternator is actually what provides power to some of your electrical components like your power windows, power seats, radio, that sort of stuff. And it also has the job of charging up the battery while the engine itself is running. Okay, so when we start the vehicle up, the engine spinning round and round, the alternator grabs that rotational force through the belt system and then transfers it to electrical energy. When it's doing that, the battery itself should be charging and should have a charge somewhere between 14.2 and 14.6 volts. If we're not getting that, that's a clue that we should start investigating what's up with the alternator. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that your alternator is bad. However, if we're not in that range, if we're below that range, or even worse, if we're above that range, that tells us that we really should start investigating the alternator and start there, that the battery itself might be okay. Now with the car running, what we're going to do is the exact same test that we did previously to check on the battery. We'll just take our digital multimeter, make sure it's on, make sure it's set to 20 volts DC, and then we will just simply connect it to the battery and see what kind of readout we get. Right here we can see we're at about 14.49. Actually, I don't know if you can see that or not. Well, we're at about 14.5 volts, which is exactly where we want to be, okay? Two different tests we will do. We want to be at about 14.5 volts with no real electrical components running. And then after that, we want to check this thing out when we have like the headlights on and the radio going and all the electrical stuff that we can have in this car running. And we still want to be in a 13.7 range with that. Okay, so what I've done now is with the car running, I've turned on the headlights, I've got the radio going, I've got the blower motor on, the heated seats, pretty much everything I could to have a big electrical draw on this circuitry. And what we want to see is somewhere between 13.7 and 14.2, meaning that the alternator is able to keep up with all of these things at an idle. Right now we have 14.2 still, which is right where we want to be. This alternator is in good working shape. I'm going to show you next one that needs to be addressed. Okay, as you can hear, I've got this little dune buggy running, and you hear that kind of high-pitched whining noise? That's the alternator itself. That could be a clue to you that that's going bad. This specific one right here, it looks like that. It's got some bearings going bad on the backside and not allowing it to fully charge the battery. And we can test that by doing the same test that we had done previously. And on this readout, where the Jetta used to have about 14.5 volts going through it, this one only has 11.5 at the battery, which means that alternator is in big trouble and it needs to be replaced. Fortunately for me, on this crappy old dune buggy, I've got the alternator right there. It's a really quick and easy replacement. That's a really easy test that I can do, and I didn't even have to turn on the headlights or anything to know, hey, this is where my problem is. Some of these symptoms included a little bit of a hard starting situation, that big whining noise that you hear from the alternator, and the fact that I have the battery light on in the dash letting me know that there's an issue with this and it needs to be addressed. And then that's pretty much it as far as trying to diagnose the difference between a problem with the battery and the alternator. It doesn't necessarily mean the alternator itself is bad. It could be a bad connection on the back side of it, some bad connections at the terminal ends of the battery, could be a loose belt, all sorts of different things, but at least it steers you in the direction of looking at that alternator as opposed to just having to buy a new battery and wasting $120 or so just to find out that that didn't quite fix your problem. So thanks for checking out the video, class. I've got a couple of questions for you guys that I would like emailed to me. Email me the answers, just some follow-up stuff on that. Again, if you guys need anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out. Email me, hawnb@mcfsd.org, or reach out to me in any way that you can think of. I'm around my stuff all the time because I'm not doing anything. I miss you guys. I miss everyone. We're going to get through this together. We're going to get through this stronger. I can't wait to come out on the backside of that. And I get to enter the old dune buggy in what's called the Gambler 500. And I'll tell you guys all about that coming up. I'm super excited for that. So thank you guys. Stay safe. Stay healthy. I miss you. We'll see you soon.